First off, I mean, you're on the summer tour right now. You got, Local H and Marcy Playground? Is that the bill this time around?
Good. Yes, sir. Summerland 2018, our sixth year of doing this. And it's fun. It's a very rock and roll tour. There's no keyboards, there's no computers, no tracks, no auto-tune. Like a couple, I don't want to name names, but every year there's at least one band that has all the technology and stuff. And, it just doesn't seem very genuine to me. I'm an old school guy. I like guitars, bass, drums, and keyboards are fine, but just having live people play them without a net is really exciting to me, and that's what we got going on this year.
Before we get into the new stuff, because I know that's an also exciting part to talk about, I'd like to hit on some anniversaries, because this happens to be the 25th anniversary of Everclear's first EP and the World of Noise album.
That came out in '93. That's true. The thing is about those, I've said it was the 25th anniversary, but it was re-released. Now, not that EP, but the album World of Noise was re-released in '94, and that's when people started really finding out about it. I mean, so it's kind of dubious. I mean, I'm thinking about putting out a remastered version with a bunch of tracks, even some tracks from that EP next year. I own that record. So I'm actually looking into doing that. And I thought maybe it would be better to talk about that stuff when the remastered version comes out. But I don't know, if you want to talk about it, that's fine.
When you're when you're just starting out, you can have that happen. The demos end up becoming the actual album, and on and on. And
hello, Baruch Assault much?
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So those were the first recordings, and it showed up on the radio with Seize It, and it was a huge hit, and basically started their career for them by getting them their record deal, because people in the industry couldn't believe that this little indie single was number one at alternative radio for a few weeks. It was in the top 10 for a long time.
It's a monster of a song.
And that was really exciting. I was excited when that happened.
When I look back at that, knowing the bit of your history that I can, gather from the web from before that era and everything, having come from, what they were calling the cowpunk scene, moving to Portland, grunge explosion had happened at that point. How important was that to shaping the sound of what would become Everclear? I know a few of those songs had existed for a little while, but it did fit in the grand conversation at the time.
Well, what you're saying is actually pretty much true in a way, but not really, because it seems like I just said, hey, there's grunge going on. I'm going to stop doing this country thing and go up there and do it. And that really wasn't the case if you look at what I put out on my indie label Shindig. I had always been into big, huge guitars and stuff like that. I did like some cowpunk bands, but cowpunk was a thing that happened in L.A. pretty much, a little bit in San Francisco, but that was the early 80s, late 70s, with bands like Blood on the Saddle. And there was a few of those bands that were out there. What I had going on in the late 80s in San Francisco was pretty much called the alternative country scene. And I put out a record on my label to commemorate it called Lazy, Loud, and Liquored Up. And, it never really was much of a scene because people just wouldn't play nice together, But there was a bunch of these bands that came up, and I had a band called Easy Hose that came out of that. And I just basically started my own label. I borrowed some money from one of the guys I worked with at this printing concern, who was a salesman and made a lot more money than I did, and basically started this little label. And our first thing was a band called the Easy Hose. Swear to God, that's the name, Easy Hose. And that was my band. I was in that band, but I wasn't the leader of that band. I played guitar and sang and produced and sang lead on, I think, 2 or 3 songs, something like that, on the album. But that band after that, Colorfinger, was much more aggressive and punkish, and it still had a country kind of feel to it. So I think that's where people get that whole cowpunk thing. I was a fan of cowpunk as a kid, but that's in my early 20s, late teens. Anyways, I moved to Portland because I had a girlfriend from Portland from touring up there on the original release of Deep in the Heart of the Beast in the Sun, which is the Color Figure record. I met a girl and we fell in love, and she came to San Francisco. She got pregnant, and so we moved to Portland. I didn't move to Portland for any other reason. It just was a better place to raise a kid, and I had no idea how to raise a child. So, and plus she had family there, and my sister and my mom was soon to move there, but my sister lived there, so it made sense. But at the time, while that was going on, Color Finger was already starting to get harder and more aggressive. And with the debut, not the debut, I'd already started listening to Sub Pop bands, because before that girlfriend, I had a girlfriend who turned me on to Sub Pop like the year before. And so I was already listening to, bands like Nirvana and the other Sub Pop bands. She signed me up for the Singles of the Month Club, so wow. I was already starting to move in that direction with my songwriting. And then when I moved to Portland, I still kept doing the band down in San Francisco, but it was just, we were on welfare. I couldn't afford to go back and forth, Yeah. So I quit that band and put an ad out for a new band, Everclear. I wanted to call it either Everclear or Sparkle. I wasn't sure which one I was going to call it. And then I put an ad in the Rocket, and that's how I met the guys.
Yeah.
And that's how I started doing that. And that was in 1992.
And then the album comes out locally a year after that. And the songwriting is so fully formed at that point. I think that's what's really amazing about that. Of course, as you say, you'd been writing for, like a decade,
At least a decade, yeah. No, I mean, for sure. I've been writing. I started writing songs when I was about 2021. Yeah. Because I just got sick. I was playing in punk bands, hard rock bands, cover bands. I just got really sick of dealing with singers who couldn't play an instrument. They'd be like, I don't like that. Can you play something more linear? I'm like, what the hell does linear mean? What do you mean by linear? That has nothing to do with music. Unless maybe you're John Cage. I don't know what you mean. Right. So I actually walked out of a rehearsal with the band I was in. I'm just like, all right, I'm done with this. And sat on my mom's couch for about a year, just learning how to play other people's songs and learning how to write songs and sing and play at the same time. So by the time I wrote the songs for World of Noise, I brought a lot of those up with me to Portland, and then they changed a little bit. And what happened is in late 92, I wasn't really sure what was happening with the band. I wasn't sure if we were good or not. And I met a guy, while I was digging a ditch, I met a guy on the other side of the wall that I saw all these kind of hip-looking guys go in and out of this garage or this basement. And I'm like, it's got to be a drug deal, And here I am, like 2 years sober, clean and sober, and I'm like thinking, man, I wonder what they got going on over there, And the guy comes out, and, I look over the fence, and he sees me and goes, man, you're in that band. You guys play around. And like, no one ever recognized me because no one knew who we were. But, I guess he'd see me on a Friday night at this pub and playing. And I would go, yeah. And he goes, hey, I go, what are you guys doing, man? He goes, I got a basement. I got a studio in my basement. I go, really? He goes, yeah, I want to see it. And I'm like, sure. I'm done digging this ditch. I was doing extra work for someone my wife worked with, for like an extra $200 because we were poor. So that was my girlfriend who was going to become my second wife. And I literally jumped over the fence, something I couldn't do now if I paid somebody. And I just jumped over the fence and went and looked at it. It was this little basement studio, clean. He had a little 1/4-inch 8-track, Fostex 8-track. And I'm like, well, how much you charging? He goes, $10 an hour. I go, well, you took some stuff in trade? He goes, maybe. What do you got? And I told him what I had a MIDI perb and an old analog delay. He goes, yeah, if they're working, I'll give you $400 worth of trade. And I brought him to him, and that's how much it cost to record World of Noise.
Jeez.
Because that's all I had. And we did it in about 2 weeks. That was in late, like November, December 92. And before it became an EP or anything, I dashed off a tape. I had some tapes made, and I sent one to South by Southwest. And I got back like 2 weeks later, this raving letter accepting us. I'm just like, man, we don't have any money. We have no way to get there. So, I just started hustling and convinced some people to let us use their credit cards and rented a van. And before I left town, I put a bunch of packets of, bio and pictures and cassettes that I made. Actually, as we were leaving town to go to South by Southwest, and I had booked just like 4 or 5 dates on there, and a few coming back from places I played with Colorfinger. I put them in the mail, and when we were in Austin, I was coming back, and I called my girlfriend, and became my second wife. I called her, and she's like, "Man, you better get home." I go, "Why?" I was afraid something was wrong with our daughter, and she's like, everybody's writing about you in all the papers. It's like everybody put out a thing saying Everclear. Who is Everclear? Everclear's best new band of. It's just like in like 3 local rags, the local newspaper, the local free paper. People were just raving about it. So we went home, and this is '93. We went home and started getting actual gigs, and we became the band in Portland.
Fire Maple Song, it's sort of become, a minor radio hit at that point, I think, with college radio.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
That was a little bit later. Because then this local label reached out to me, TK Records, and then we signed a short deal with them, and they put out the EP, and then later that year they put out the first time they put out World of Noise, but it didn't really do anything. And so by that time, I had hooked up with this guy who was a lawyer down in LA, and he was managing the band with me, and we decided to hire a college radio consultant who would work the record. And I remember because it cost $700, which was like
almost twice as much as the album.
Almost. But you know what? It got us to, and they just called people and worked it, and we got to number 7 on the college radio charts, which is really hard to do. It's hard to do that because you can't pay for that. Those kids that work at those stations are like, they resent when people call them,
Mm-hmm.
But what they did is they sent the record out and people just glommed onto it. So that was really good. So all the things you're saying are true. I mean, it took a lot longer than, just throwing it against the wall to stick. I loved it when people were like, "Wow, your first real band, you got a platinum record." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Man, seriously? I've been playing in bands since I was 16. I've been writing songs and singing my own songs since I was 22. I was 32 when that happened, and I had been in multiple bands constantly, touring locally, touring nationally, not internationally. I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I did my dues,
Right.
I was out there doing it, learning, improving. That's how you get good. It's you just, it's kind of the 10,000 hours thing. It's just like you've got to put in the time. And the bands that don't put in the time, that just kind of happen, they generally don't last. I think Weezer is the exception to that rule, because apparently they get signed at their first show.
I still would like to talk about the new stuff too.
Yeah, I'm making a solo record, and it's really good. There you go. I don't know. No, seriously, I've always wanted to make a solo record, but it always seemed like a stupid thing to do because Everclear is my band. There's nothing comes out that doesn't sound the way I want it to sound. So it would seem kind of like a useless vanity thing to do a solo album. That's why I never did one on Capitol, even though they tried to get me to do it. But what I've always wanted to do was do a record where I play everything, and I'm not really a great drummer or this and that. I can get by. But this is just me and my engineer / co-producer, and we're just in my little studio I built in Pasadena, and it's mostly acoustic so far. We got about 9 songs, basics down, and writing more on the road. I'm going to finish it this fall. Yeah. I'll deliver it late fall.
Did you know it's actually the 20th anniversary of the song Overwhelming from the Permanent Midnight soundtrack, which just happens to be the first time nationally that you'd bill yourself solo?
That's actually really good to know. Was it 20 years?
Yeah, Permanent Midnight came out 1998. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember doing that. I remember Ben Stiller and Jerry Stahl, the guy that the book was about, and they came to a show down in, I think, Laguna Beach, and then me and Ben hung out for a little bit, like over the next few months, and yeah, I wrote that song. Ben liked it. He wanted me to write a song, so I wrote a song, and after seeing a rough of the movie, and really the song has nothing to do with the movie, that's more personal, it's just, feeling stuff. And I remember recording it with this producer, Paul Fox, the only other producer I've ever worked with. And I haven't heard that version in a long time, because we recorded it for Songs from the American Movie Volume 2, like about, I'd say, 2 years later. So that's interesting that was 20 years. Wow.
Yeah, it's a nice wraparound there, and even to tie it in back, to those World of Noise songs. I was kind of laughing because there's a line in one of the songs where you talk about hearing Grandma sing those country songs, and I thought, here you've got a solo record that's got, apparently some banjo and acoustic, and it seems like the full circle in a way.
Absolutely. There's dobro, banjo, there's slide. I'm playing slide on it, and it's all acoustic, 12 strings, mandolin, mandola. Yeah, it is kind of full circle, because this record has a definite Americana kind of feel to it. It's really rough. I want it to be rough. I don't want it to be overproduced. I really have to push myself to not make it overproduced. But right now, it's still in the later embryonic stage. I don't know what it's going to sound like till it's done, and I don't know what it's going to be called until it's done. It'll tell me what it's supposed to be called, just like all my albums do. When I try to name them before they're done, I always change the name, because it just doesn't mean what, it doesn't make any sense anymore. It's just like so much for the Afterglow. That was called Pure White Evil. So it's a pretentious title. But it took me a few months and a couple of misses to figure it out, and I'm sure it will happen this way too. That's the fun of the process, and that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be fun and do something I hadn't done before.
I can't wait to hear it, man, and hopefully we can do this again when that's out and dig into that one a little bit deeper as well.
Okay, I look forward to it. It's good talking to you.
You too. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.